The oceans here in BC and in other areas where this industry is going on, they tend to try to locate in areas where there are very high levels of biodiversity, very high wild fish values. If you look back at that earlier map, where they are on Vancouver Island and where they are in the Broughton and where they want to go, the industry generally likes to go where there's a huge amount of life. They like to get near an estuary where there are lots of healthy wild salmon populations. And the reason for that is the closer they are into that fresh water, the less gringe they get growing on their net cages. And also they tend to rely on where fish populations are as a sign that that's probably where their salmon farms will do well. They tend also to locate, as I said, near estuaries, and this is really regrettable because, of course, the juveniles, as they're coming out, then run the gauntlet of sewage, they run the gauntlet of sea lice, they run the gauntlet of going through the net cages. So there's a huge number of problems that are created for wild salmon by where the industry have been allowed to locate. And virtually all of the sites that the salmon farmers chose in the Broughton were areas that had been zoned as highly sensitive to wild salmon. There were places they could have gone where they wouldn't put our wild fish at such great risk, but they tended not to. All our ecosystems need clean streams. A very large amount of work has been done by Dr. Reimken from the University of Victoria about the wonderful role that bears play in moving wild salmon carcasses on either side of our riparian systems all up and down the BC coast. Probably the largest single annual movement of nitrogen in BC's environment comes thanks to our bear population and thanks to these wonderful creatures that go out and gather nitrogen in the deep Pacific and bring all that biomass and all of that wonderful fertilization back into our coast. So the wild salmon plays a huge number of vital roles. And of course, these are the greatest gardeners in BC, other than my dad, I guess. They play a marvelous role in moving these salmon throughout the system. And if any creature really should be protected on the BC coast, any mammal should be protected, it really should be the bear population. There's all kinds of other values that are being impacted. And again, I don't want to overstate the negative impacts that it's having on raptors and other bird populations, but it's negative, and I think that's enough reason why the Canadian Wildlife Service and others should be doing a far more careful analysis and assessment of what the negative impacts of this industry are on these fragile populations. To give you an idea, there's a lot of people a lot of organizations that are joining together to try and get aquaculture reform here in BC. BC Aboriginal Fisheries Commission, ourselves, Friends of Clayoquot Sound, Georgia Strait Alliance, who are here tonight, Living Ocean Society, the Musqueam Tribal Council, Rain Coast Conservation Society, Rain Coast Research, SPEC, T-Buck Suzuki, Watershed Watch, and I think that list is just going to continue to grow because I have a very strong feeling that in the next very short period of time, the open net cage industry are going to be given their walking papers out of BC. And then, of course, we have great cartoonists here in BC, like Rayside. I particularly like this one because, as Daniel was saying, if we don't mobilize as concerned people and do stuff about what's happening in the oceans of the world, which is 3/4 of this planet, are we all going to sit around and eat hagfish and jellyfish? And this is kind of cute right now. But the fact of the matter is, if we got population declines like we saw with the pinks and the Broughton, from millions to less than hundreds of thousands, I mean, just gigantic plunging crashes of wild salmon populations. I mean, that's what we'll be doing, is eating sea lice.